I stood just beyond the tree line, staring in disbelief as another group of people wandered leisurely through the forest I'd bought with years of hard work. My knuckles turned white around the envelope I held. Official court documents bearing the final judgment. $20 million in damages. It was one of the largest rulings ever handed down in a case involving a homeowners association. But what began as a quiet life in the countryside had turned into a legal war I never saw coming. 3 years ago, I fulfilled a lifelong dream. I bought 15 wooded acres next to the Willow Creek subdivision, a peaceful retreat where I could finally escape the noise of urban life. I'm Mark Thompson, and I spent most of my adult life saving every spare dollar for this sanctuary. I made sure everything was in order before signing. The realtor confirmed the land was entirely private. I paid for an exhaustive title search. There were no easements, no shared access. It was mine. From the first week I moved in, strangers started appearing in my woods. I assumed they were lost or unfamiliar with the property lines. I tried to be friendly, redirected them, posted signs, even put up fencing in key spots. Still, the traffic didn't stop. Families were having picnics near the creek. Teenagers threw late-night parties. People walked their dogs through my trails and left plastic waste bags tied to tree branches like ornaments. When I voiced my concerns to the HOA president, Karen Mitchell, she gave me a patronizing smile and said the woods had always been shared space for the neighborhood. I showed her my deed and land surveys. She brushed them off and insisted their HOA records reflected different boundaries. Then she had the nerve to accuse me of being antisocial, for not sharing the natural beauty. I increased security, more signs, more fencing. But someone tore them down. My cameras caught HOA board member Richard Hayes yanking them out, and telling his wife that I had no legal right to restrict public trails. Things got out of hand when I found a massive treehouse being built deep in my forest. This wasn't some kid's project, it had platforms, rope bridges, even a zip line. The builders said they'd been hired by HOA families who had approval to construct a communal play area. That was the last straw. I sent formal letters to every home in Willow Creek. I made it crystal clear. This land was privately owned, and anyone entering without permission would be committing trespass. Karen responded not with apologies, but with a letter on official HOA letterhead, threatening me with fines for creating disharmony. She actually tried to fine me for protecting my own land. Then one morning I found Max, my German shepherd, dragging his paw and crying in pain. The vet found burns and embedded glass in the wound. The security footage showed a group of teens had built an illegal bonfire in my woods the night before. They'd left broken bottles and smoldering embers behind. Max had stepped right into it during his usual patrol. That day I stopped being polite. I hired the top property rights attorney in the state, Sandra Williams, an expert in HOA litigation. She reviewed the evidence and told me this case went far beyond trespassing. We filed a civil lawsuit against the entire HOA, individual board members, and nearly 40 homeowners with recorded incidents of trespassing. Discovery revealed a tangled mess of deceit. Internal emails proved that the HOA board knew my land wasn't theirs. They deliberately altered their community maps to make it appear as part of the subdivision. Karen Mitchell had even written, "Possession is 9/10ths of the law. If enough residents use it, we'll have a claim eventually." Worse still, an old email from 5 years before my purchase confirmed that the previous board had acknowledged the true boundaries. But because the elderly former owner rarely visited, they decided to act as if it were community land anyway. My legal team built a solid case. Environmental experts testified about the damage: deep erosion from foot traffic, blocked drainage channels leading to seasonal flooding, and a grove of century-old oaks dying due to the treehouse construction. A forensic accountant calculated how much the HOA had benefited from treating my property as their own, a luxury amenity that added value to their homes while costing me everything. After months of litigation, the judge ruled in my favor. The HOA was ordered to pay $20 million in damages, a decision that sent shockwaves through every community association in the state. So now, as I stand once again at the edge of my land, I don't see trespassers. I see the end of a battle I never asked for, but one I refused to lose. They wandered through my woods like they owned them, strangers treating my land as their playground. But that sense of violation was just the beginning. I still remember the weight of those court documents arriving by certified mail, A $20 million judgment. The court had sided with me. It was one of the largest damages ever awarded in a case involving a homeowners association. But the fight to get there? That's a story worth telling. The emotional toll was severe. An expert spoke in court about the psychological damage, the anxiety from repeated trespassing, the fear that came with threats from the HOA, and the heartbreak I felt watching my dog limp home after being attacked by yet another uninvited guest. The trial uncovered layers of deceit that shocked even seasoned attorneys. Under pressure, Karen Mitchell, president of the HOA, finally cracked during depositions. Faced with undeniable proof that she had long known about the true property lines, she admitted she had hoped I'd just get tired and move out like the owner before me. Another bombshell came from Richard Hayes, a senior board member, who confessed they had been quietly collecting unofficial maintenance fees from new homeowners for a forest that didn't even belong to the community. It was mine. The trial lasted 3 grueling weeks. One by one, witnesses stepped forward. Former HOA members described how Karen had bullied anyone who dared challenge her authority. A former secretary even brought in meeting minutes where Karen plainly stated they should keep using the land until someone makes us stop. My lawyer's closing argument was a masterclass in truth and strategy. She outlined how the HOA had engaged in coordinated theft, systemic fraud, and reckless endangerment. How they had knowingly destroyed my property value while profiting off my land. She asked the jury to send a message. Property theft, no matter how organized or disguised behind community buzzwords, is still theft. It took just 6 hours for the jury to reach a decision. The courtroom was tense, packed with journalists and community members. The verdict was read with measured clarity. Guilty of trespassing, conspiracy, fraud, and negligence. The damages for property loss, emotional suffering, and reduced land value came to $5 million. But that wasn't the end. The judge then addressed the court with a weight that silenced the room. He called the HOA's actions deliberate, sustained, and malicious. He emphasized that this wasn't a misunderstanding but an orchestrated effort to hijack private property for public benefit, and to silence anyone who got in their way. Evidence revealed even darker truths. The HOA had created a secret fund, money skimmed from resident dues, and used it to build treehouses, benches, and nearly a pavilion all on my land. Karen had even walked potential homebuyers through the woods, selling them on community features that were never hers to give. My woods had been falsely advertised in promotional brochures. That's when the jury awarded another $15 million in punitive damages, bringing the total to $20 million. Karen gasped audibly. Her face turned ghostly pale as she grasped the gravity of what had happened. The judge didn't stop there. He announced that criminal charges were forthcoming for Karen Mitchell and several board members. Charges of fraud and conspiracy, each carrying potential prison sentences of up to 5 years. The district attorney, who had been present throughout the trial, stood up and confirmed that his office would pursue prosecution immediately. That's when Karen's world truly collapsed. A successful real estate agent for over 2 decades, her broker, sitting in the gallery, stood and publicly terminated her on the spot. Her license would be under review, and her career was finished. As the judge thanked the jury, Karen stood abruptly and shouted, accusing me of ruining everything, claiming the neighborhood would fall apart. The judge warned her to sit or face contempt. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, while her attorney tried in vain to restore her composure. Richard Hayes sat with his face buried in his hands, the full weight of the verdict crashing down on him. The rest of the board looked stunned, hollowed out by what they now owed personally. Then came the final ruling. The HOA board was to be disbanded immediately. A court-appointed administrator would manage the bankruptcy process, and any part of the judgment not covered by HOA assets or insurance. The individual board members would be liable, personally and fully. Karen's cry of despair when she realized this meant losing her home, her savings, and her retirement was chilling. The final blow came when the judge set bail at $500,000 for Karen and Richard, and $250,000 for each remaining board member. As bailiffs moved in with cuffs, Karen collapsed. Her legs gave out, and she had to be supported as they restrained her. She was still muttering about property values and neighborhood unity, her mascara streaking down her face like ink bleeding through water. Justice wasn't just served. It was written into the history of that courtroom.